of the Ukrainian war map, also known as Russia's devastating invasion of Ukraine. Chelsea here, and today is just another quick update as I take a down-to-earth and more simplified approach to the happenings on the ground in Ukraine. As always, I like to start off with the military losses. Now, again, take these with a bit of a pinch of salt, but in some of my other videos, I've explored reasons as to why these figures look so big. For instance, military personnel losses on the Russian side, 45,700. This does include up to, 50% of this figure could be considered Russian-backed separatist fighters in the Donbass region there. So, and now this even includes the likes of 400 Luhansk civilian coal miners, so these are also in the Donbass region, forcibly conscripted to the front line by Russia. There are actually countless stories of Russia scrounging for scraps, pardon my expression, militarily speaking, when looking to bolster their exhausted forces. We'll jump down a bit to have a look at the military hardware losses on the Russian side as well. So 5 armoured combat vehicles, 3 tanks, 3 artilleries, and 1 Ka-52 helicopter as well. Okay, we'll move back to the map. As we sometimes do, we'll start outside of Ukraine in the actual Russian Federation. This is a bit more of a news story. We're outside of the Belgorod city, but in the Belgorod Oblast, around here. About 4 or 5 days ago in Timanovo, there was an ammunition dump that exploded. Now, Russia has come out saying that the reason for this was due to quote-unquote hot weather. So I've commented on explanations like this before. This does not look good for Russia, as either Russia is incompetent and can't safely store their weaponry, or Ukrainian caused it, showing Ukraine can outwit Russian incompetent air defenses, for instance. Now, you know how people sometimes say, choose the lesser of two evils? Well, each situation is as bad as each other, so yeah, it just doesn't look good either way for the Russian side. Move across to the general map here. So, generally speaking, air raid alerts have been sounding off in almost every region since early today on the 24th of August, as Ukraine celebrates its Independence Day, 6 months by coincidence from the actual invasion by Russia there. Now at the top within Ukraine are the Sumy and Kharkiv oblasts. Now Russia keeps stepping up its attacks on these oblasts here in the last few days. The reason seems to be a combination of forcing Ukraine to maintain an armed presence in the north of Ukraine, so these Ukrainian soldiers can't be redistributed for a southern counteroffensive, which is, if we have a look at the map, let's say about 300 kilometers away. And the second reason would be in the lead up to Ukraine's Independence Day celebrations, which is happening at the time of recording. And Kyiv is expecting, so the capital Kyiv, back over here, is expecting potentially some big attacks from Russia. They've even got some sirens going on at the moment, at least at the time of this recording. We've got this video here with the sounds in Kyiv. Fingers crossed this one was more of a preemptive siren of sorts. Moving across to the Donbass region, and yeah, I've got to say that this is probably the biggest gains in the Donbass that I've personally seen in a while. So if we just jump to the front line on the east there, and we go back and forth between the last couple of days that are available, you can see, so this is the 21st, and then after the weekend, really, we hit the 24th, and there has been small gains. Now, they haven't taken any of the strategically important cities, towns, or villages, like Bakhmut, obviously, Kramatorsk, Sloviansk. They're a little bit too far away, even Bakhmut for that matter, but if I was to zoom in, and you can really see where the edging of the town of Bakhmut is, and we'll just go back and forth, and we can see that Russia took the highway about a week ago, and they're just sort of inland there trying to potentially succeed, but they have been repelled for the most part there anyway. And let's see, continued Russian artillery, particularly artillery shelling in Bakhmut there as well, as this video will show. No doubt with their old Soviet era cheap leftover shells, which we're starting to learn. Now in Horlivka, so I'll just pump this in so I can find it. Here we go, Horlivka. There it is, blue on the map there, so clearly in Russian occupied territory. Smoke has shown as being visible near Horlivka in this photo here, as we can see. Now it's not the first time this month that this has happened at this location. Russian supplies are kept there near to the front line, and I keep saying it, but I think they're just a bit too close to the front line, and they can't. It's just not sustainable for the Russian side to do such a thing. Also in the east, just in the general Donbass region, Ukraine also destroyed a helicopter, a Russian Ka-52 Alligator, the one I briefly mentioned when I was looking at the combat losses before. And they destroyed 5 Russian drones as well, but I don't have a lot of further information on the drones so far, maybe later on. Move down to the Zaporizhia region, and just to give you a little bit better context, maybe I'll use the ruler to show you. This is the actual Zaporizhia region here, if you can see that okay. So half is taken, half is not. Actually, fair to say 3/4 is Russian occupied, 1/4 is not. Now within there, Zaporizhia is one of the cities, Melitopol another one of the cities, but if we just get rid of this ruler and zoom in just a smidge, we'll see yet another ammo depot exploded in Tokmak today. So in Russian occupied territory there as well. There's some really poor quality footage for this. I apologize, it's hard to get great footage inside the combat zones there. But it's not the first time this has happened. I believe it was this month as well, maybe the 1st or 2nd of August. Tokmak was also hit with a Russian ammunition depot there too. Don't know if it was the same location or a different one, but the Russian forces again have to understand that this supply dump or ones right here are just too close to their front line. And if I was to pull up the rule there, 27 kilometers, maybe 20 miles, well within the range of so many weapon systems that Ukraine has. So that's not great for the Russians there either. Moving across to Kherson, where some explosions and things were heard. So you might remember Nova Kakhovka. That's where the dam bridge is. Now, this is actually just barely inside of 24 hours ago now. There was another explosion at Nova Kakhovka. This is, of course, again on the Russian-occupied side, and relates to Russian supply lines again, supplies, all sorts of things like that. But also in the district over here of just Kakhovka, not Nova Kakhovka, there's been explosions heard there as well. Okay, we'll move down to Crimea, where it's always getting a bit interesting here. So Ukraine really seems to be testing Russia's air defenses at this location in the peninsula. More explosions were reported nearby Sevastopol, so that's the biggest city right there, which was said to be a Ukraine that was shot down again today in the last 24-hour period. So what I could say to break this down is we have these, let's say, $10,000 gas-powered cheap Chinese drones that Ukraine uses to test Russian air defenses. And Russia, for instance, has the surface-to-air missile air defense systems like the S-300s and the S-400s, quite expensive systems really. And the problem here is each Russian air defense system missile, per missile cost, is roughly 10 to 100 times more the cost of a cheap Ukrainian drone that infiltrates the region there. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars for each missile used in these Russian air defense batteries, which I truly believe Russia doesn't have a high volume of high-tech, expensive missile weaponry or ammunition weaponry to use with these S-300 and S-400 systems. So what we're likely to see more of for Russian defenses into the future is the use of older Soviet-era anti-aircraft guns like the Tunguska, which is of course cheaper and less accurate for Russia's defenses. Now we'll move across to the news, where I'm finding the news is starting to get just as interesting, if not more, than the map. So where Russia's defense minister, Shoigu, said that the operation in Ukraine is quote-unquote going according to plan. He also stated that the slow or the low pace of the operation is also going according to plan to avoid casualties. Now, when anyone uses the expression going according to plan, they're just such famous last words. Feel free to comment below on this wild-eyed political rhetoric coming out of Russia. I guess I just don't want to say anything about what they say these days. Just not a fan of their words. In more news, so President Zelensky said Ukraine is not ready to sign a ceasefire deal with Russia. Zelensky said that Ukraine did not want to repeat the negative experience of the 2014 Minsk Agreement and the 2015 Minsk II Agreement deal as well. Zelensky went on to say that the ceasefire regime could drag on for years and Ukraine would be left without part of its territories, while Russia could start hostilities again after some time. And the biggest problem with the Minsk agreement back then was that the ceasefire component of the agreement was not respected by the Russian side. And the Donbass region broke the ceasefire almost every day for many years. Moving across to more news. Doubt we can really see it that well on the map, but Turkish news here, Turkish country here. So the Turkish President Erdogan said that under international law, Crimea should be returned to Ukraine. Erdogan also reiterated that Turkey didn't recognize the illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014. So Turkey, this is a close proximity neighbor right there that has become progressively less and less neutral in this war, and frankly pro-Ukrainian. So that is actually pretty good to see from a world stance there. In other news, German Chancellor Scholz promises to send arms worth 500 million euros to Ukraine. This comes on the back of Germany being accused of not being overly proactive in their support in the recent weeks. So that's a decent change of pace there on the German support side of things. And in more news, the US is about to announce another $3 billion in military aid package for Ukraine as Ukraine hits the 6-month milestone of the war. Total aid now from the US sits at about $10 billion. It was about $1 billion a month, for instance. And interestingly, some analysts speculate that the US is attempting to deplete Russian resources in Ukraine in order to remove Russia as a military strategic competitor. So that is to say, if the US keeps sending, say, $10 billion in military aid every 6 months or so, then Russia, after a while, will no longer be a near-peer military adversary, making life a lot easier for the States and around the globe. Now, 10 billion every 6 months sounds like a lot, but just to put that in comparison, it's completely dwarfed by the United States yearly, their annual military budget, which is about $800 billion. So they might be seeing themselves as getting a deal. It's a little bit Cold War-like with what's going on there, obviously. Okay, so just a quick funny to round off the day. This is clearly a fake, but I enjoy it so much. Here we have a Ukrainian HIMARS system on a floaty pointing towards an invisible range target, and that target is the Crimean Bridge, which in truth Ukraine now considers a military target, and they either do have or are about to have the military capability to strike it from that distance there. So let's see, the closest distance might be maybe there, 230 kilometers, yeah. So depending on the systems that might not yet be reported and they already have from NATO or the US. So I just love that video. It's kind of cute, just the way that it floats. Okay, that's enough out of me. My mouth is killing me. Sorry if I'm not the most clearly communicative today. Still got that wisdom tooth issue that's got to get sorted. But thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, subscribe, hit that like button, show all those trolls who's who in the comments. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean to reply to their comments. I just mean just give me a like, so that we can all see the prevailing sentiment in towards support for the Ukrainians there. But yeah, thanks again, guys. And yeah, I do hope to see all of you there in the next one. Cheers.